Hello, saints. Greetings in the precious name of our Lord Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Blessings. I hope everything is going well as we're coming out of this coronavirus mess. And I hope you're well today. Look, I got a doozy today. Okay, I got one that's really you're gonna want to watch this video, and you're gonna want to watch it to the end. I'm going to give you two scenarios of what's happening in these end times, and the last scenario is serious stuff. So please, I know my videos run kind of long sometimes, but if you can stay to the end, you really want to hear what I have to say. That last scenario I'm going to give you. Alright, for those that are watching my last video, you know I talked about the signs of the times and the signs in the skies. Okay? And just to reiterate, I spoke to you about how I was laying on the couch one night and I heard clearly in my spirit, you know, go outside and look up in the sky. Now, before I heard that, I was thinking to myself, you know, I was thinking about the coronavirus and all this mess that's happening in this country, with the politics, this craziness that's going on. And I was thinking, like, you know, Lord, what's next? You know, what's coming next? What's the next mess we gotta look forward to? And I heard clearly, go outside and look up in the sky. So when I went outside and looked up in the sky, you know, I narrated that what I saw, these lights that were going up. Okay, this is exactly what I saw. The picture that's coming up right now, this is what I saw. Those are the lights. It looked exactly like that. I was looking to the, I'm in South Florida, and I was looking to the north west. And that's what I saw. I saw those lights going up. Well, I know what they are. I found out exactly what those lights were. And it's, you know, I talked about angel, I talked about maybe, you know, it was some kind, I didn't know what it was. You know, I gave a couple things that it could have been, but I really didn't know what it was. But today I know exactly what they are. They're Starlink satellites that were sent up by SpaceX and Elon Musk. Okay? I'm going to show you a couple pictures. If you look at this one, you'll see other people that have taken pictures of these things going across the night sky. Now, according to Elon Musk, these are broadband internet, low orbit satellites that he's sending up to give cheap internet to the whole world. Now, the question I asked myself when I heard what these satellites were supposed to be was, why would God tell me to go outside and look up at internet satellites? Remember, the question I was asking was, what's coming next? What's the next thing that's coming? And I don't think God was sending me out to look up at no internet satellites. Now, I understand what Elon Musk is saying to the public of what these things are. But as I started researching into it, something started looking a little funny. Okay? Number one, the government of the United States have approved for him to send up these satellites, and the total number that he has approval for is over 12,000. Why do we need 12,000 satellites to bring internet? When the internet is running pretty fast and, you know, pretty okay right now with the amount of satellites that they have up there. And I don't know the exact amount, but I know it's probably not even 20. So what are you going to do with 12,000 satellites? And that's why people are seeing the satellites trailing with all these lights following each other, because every SpaceX missile or SpaceX rocket that he's sending up with these satellites contains 60. He's sending them up 60 at a time. And it's going to take a couple years before he can complete it. And then I read another article where they said they were putting down this huge cable around Africa to bring Africa faster internet service. It was this huge cable that they're going to run around the circumference of most of Africa. And I thought to myself, if somebody's sending up satellites to give all of this low-cost internet, why waste money putting down a cable? Something just ain't right. Now, it's top secret company information what's inside of these satellites. So it's hard to really get a picture of the satellite and a blueprint of how it works and what's inside. You're not going to find that. But what I did find was I found an article that was talking about the FCC asked Elon Musk how long the satellites are going to be up, and he had to do a report on re-entry. Because any satellite that's put into orbit, there has to be a report sent to, I think it's the FCC or one of these government organizations, where you have to report if the satellite comes down, is it going to be burnt up on re-entry, or is there any parts that's going to be left over that could harm people that are on the ground? So, SpaceX released to the FCC or whatever government agency that there were only, each satellite contained 5 things that were going to be left over after re-entry. They would not burn up. And the 5 parts, the 5 identical parts, it didn't give the details of what the parts was, but the 5 identical parts are parts of a laser beam. So each satellite contains 5 laser beams. And what the information that's being given out is that the laser beams are for communication purposes. So they're using lasers to communicate. Alright. So I'm thinking to myself, and remember the foundation that I'm building on is that God told me to go outside and look up in the sky. And the question that I was asking was, what's coming next? And I have a feeling that he wasn't trying to tell me internet is coming next. It's something more than just internet. They're hiding something. It's something about these satellites that's more than just bringing broadband at a low cost. And the amount of money that you send, you're going to spend to send a rocket up with 12,000 satellites, it doesn't seem like it's going to be cost efficient. Something that doesn't figure. It's too much money to be spending just to bring internet, something that we already have. So I started thinking to myself, and these are 2 scenarios that I came up with. These satellites have a purpose that goes beyond just broadband. And maybe they are set up to be utilized as broadband, but that's not the main purpose. It's something else going on. And the first thing that came to me was it has to do something with tracking people. And if you're setting up satellites all over the world, and 12,000 satellites, and as if you could see from this picture, they go up and they're going to set up a grid. And if you remember in the last video, I said they would go straight up following each other in a line, but then one would move to the left, and the next one will come and move to the left, and the next one to the left. It's because they're setting up a grid. And this grid is going to literally cover it looks like it's going to be 80 to 90% of the earth. It's just in the pole regions, the north and southern pole, where you might not have coverage. Which makes sense, that's because that's where most of the people are if you were doing internet. But then I also started thinking, why would all these countries like Russia and China allow low orbit satellites that could be spy satellites, that could be weaponized satellites, especially if they got lasers on them, to orbit freely through their space? And I know that the country's space has a limit how high it goes, because everybody puts up satellites that have to cross over. I understand that. But come on, if Russia was saying they were putting 12,000 satellites up into orbit, a low orbit, and they would be covering America, don't you think that it would be some kind of problem with that? Yet you've heard nothing from China, you've heard nothing from Russia. Everybody is down with it. So whatever the situation is, the other countries don't have a problem with it at all. And here's another thing. I'm hardly seeing anything in the news about this. When I went looking for images, that people that have taken images of the satellites, it's plenty of pictures. I've got pictures from Japan, from all over the world, of people seeing the satellites. And it's just so happened that they started going up around the quarantine time, where most people were not coming out of their houses. And part of me is a feeling that they didn't want people to see these things, because people are going to start asking questions of what is going on, what are they doing? And people like me are going to start looking into it. So we have these pictures of these satellites. Okay, this is a picture that I'm putting on the screen of the satellites. We know each satellite has 5 lasers. Okay, they're saying the lasers are going to be utilized for communication. We know that there is a pact or an act that's been signed by most countries about not weaponizing space. Okay, but then I started thinking, it's not too long ago that Trump started talking about the Space Force. They're creating this new Space Force, and I'm wondering, does it have something to do with these satellites? So is it a possibility that this Space Force has something to do with the satellites, and it has something to do with tracking people? And, you know, this is part of this new world order they're trying to bring in, and that's why everybody's in on it, everybody's down with it. And then I said to myself, you know, wait a minute. They're already tracking us. We as people, we so silly, we believe anything the government says. Like with the coronavirus, and they're telling people to download a tracking app so they can track everywhere you go, and people downloading it. I'm like, oh my God. You know? With this government who has a history of causing an issue and then coming up with a solution that takes away the rights of its citizens. And this has been going on since like the 1800s. And we still haven't figured out that we can't believe the government. Remember I showed you in the earlier video about the government, how they were lying about the mask? And I'm even watching now every day on TV, I'm seeing how they're talking about that drug that Trump wants to use, that, forgot the name of the drug. I'll put it up on the screen. And the other night I was watching, I'm up late a lot of times studying and looking at things. You know, I work 20-something years on the night shift, so I stay up late. It's a norm for me. And I was watching the news, and they talked about the drug that Trump was putting out there, that they did a study and they added the drug with zinc, and it, in people that were dying from coronavirus, it increased their chances of living by 40% when zinc and that drug was combined. Now, y'all know from my coronavirus videos that I told y'all from day one, about 2 months ago, about start taking the zinc glycine, the little candies, because zinc stops coronaviruses in the past from literally replicating, and it's probably going to work on this one too. Well, guess what? They're giving people the zinc now. And now they're mixing the zinc with different drugs and seeing that it's working. But the thing is, I watched this it was on, I think it's ABC News. Late at night, 40% increase probability of you living if you are critically ill with the coronavirus by taking Trump's drug and zinc. And then in the morning, I wake up, I turn on the news, and I hear, the drug that Trump is talking about, it doesn't work. We got studies that show it doesn't work. I'm like, wait a minute. Last night on the same channel, they said that the drug mixed with zinc was working. The government is either lying or the media is lying. Or they both be lying, is what I believe. And And I'm saying this to tell you that there's a reason we're not hearing anything about these satellites, or very little about the satellites. The media is talking about everything, but nothing, very little can be seen or heard on the television dealing with these satellites, yet people are seeing them and posting them all over YouTube, the videos and pictures of these satellites going across the world. But then again, it's other things going on, so political things, so I guess that's more important. But now do y'all understand why I say do not take sides? Get out of this political thing where you talk about your Democrat or your Republican, because both sides it's the two sides of the same coin. And stop believing everything the media tells you. Stop believing everything the government tells you. Look into it yourself. Do some research. Listen to the other side. Because both sides are hiding stuff. Both sides are lying. They're mixing truth with lie. They're putting a little bit of cyanide in the Kool-Aid. So when I tell you that this satellite should be something that is being talked about on the news, these satellites, and people should be asking questions exactly what's going on, yet you hear very little about it. And it's for a reason. So they could be tracking us. They can be using it as a weapon, which, like I said, it doesn't seem like the weapon thing is it just doesn't. I can't believe that they're using it as a weapon, because too many countries are allowing these satellites over to orbit over their countries. And if this was really weapons, they would have something to say. So I'm striking out as a weapon. You know, maybe it's an internet, just like you said. It's a low orbiting internet. But here is the last scenario. There is an asteroid, and remember I've been talking about my last couple of videos that I'm about to do a video on an asteroid, and the name of the asteroid is called Apophis, and it's the name of a Egyptian. It's actually the name of a Greek god. They took the Egyptian god Apophis and changed his name, gave him a Greek name of Apophis. And this god is, and we know it's fake gods. I'm not, it's a fake god. Okay, but it's supposed to be this giant snake that eats the sun. And that's the name that they gave this asteroid. And the official name is 99942 Apophis. Some of y'all that are spiritually aware and understand the symbols and symbolic things that are utilized by the enemy of our soul and people into witchcraft, sorcery, and all kinds of evil, know that a lot of times they use the number 666, which is something that comes out of the Bible, which is supposed to be the mark of the beast. But a lot of times spiritually, when the forces of evil are operating, they'll use that number. And it is taught by, I think the guy's name was Crowley. He was called the evilest man in America, the wickedest man in America, and he was like the top warlock. And he wrote a book where he said that if you're going to use the number and you want to disguise it, turn the sixes upside down and backwards. So instead of it reading 666, it would read 999. So they named the asteroid 99942 Apophis, the Egyptian god that eats the sun. Now, if a asteroid the size of this thing, this asteroid that they're talking about, and I'm going to do a whole separate video on it, that's why I'm not going into too much detail about it, but if it was to hit the Earth, it's about the size of the Eiffel Tower. If it was to hit the Earth, this would be this could be a civilization-ending event. And one of the first things that would happen on impact, it would blow so much dust and material into the atmosphere that it would literally cause the sun to be blocked out. Okay? And it's funny that the Bible talks about the end of time, that there's going to be a great earthquake that's going to shake the whole earth. which the first thing that really would happen would be, from the impact, would be a vibration, an earthquake would go across the whole planet. Everybody would feel the impact. And then the Bible says the next thing that's going to happen is that the sun is going to go dark. And the debris that is blown into the atmosphere from a rock this size would block out the sun for a period of time. So it's funny how those things lined up. So this is the asteroid that is heading this way. And I was shocked to find out that Elon Musk actually mentioned the asteroid. I want to read this. This is from space.com. This is an article. The name of the article is "Let's Talk Asteroid Apophis, Planetary Defense, and Elon Musk." Written by Megan Bartles this was August 19th, 2019. It's time to talk about Apophis again. I guess please calm down first. The asteroid is about 1,100 feet, 340 meters wide, was discovered in 2004 and will make a reasonably close flyby to the Earth on April 13, 2029. Apophis will not hit the Earth during that flyby. More on that later. Nevertheless, it's large and close and has a snappy name, and the internet loves its asteroid. Okay? That's presumably how SpaceX CEO Elon Musk ended up retweeting podcaster Joe Rogan's post of an Express story lacking any news relevance about Apophis' great name. Musk tweeted yesterday, August 18, "Wouldn't worry about this particular one, but a big rock will hit Earth eventually, and we currently have no defense." So Elon Musk tweeted out that a rock is going to hit Earth eventually. Don't worry about this one, but a rock is going to hit Earth eventually, and we have no defense. Now, as I was researching the rock, and like I said, I don't want to get too much into it because I'm going to actually do a separate video specifically on this rock. I found out that when it was initially found out in 2004, a couple years later, they said it had a 1 in 42% chance, a 1 out in 42 chance of hitting the Earth. And that has gone up and down as they've got more information in. But one thing it tells me is that they're not sure if it's going to hit or not. And I found an article where Russia said it's going to hit in 2029. Yet U.S. is saying it's not going to hit in 2029, but it has a strong chance of hitting in 2036 or 63. Yet Russia, and I think it was Russia and China, said that it's a strong chance it's going to hit in 2029. Then I started thinking, Elon Musk is tweeting about this, and he's saying that we have no defense. What if these satellites have nothing to do with any internet, or they might have an internet part of them, but the real reason that they're up is to form a grid to protect the Earth from asteroids? Now, before you start saying, here he go again, talking about stuff that he really don't know about. As some people were thinking when I was talking about the coronavirus. Remember, I told you about the coronavirus. I talked about the sun being able to kill the coronavirus. Turned out to be true. I talked about zinc being used to kill the coronavirus. Turned out to be true. I talked about the humidity and the weather. Came out to be true. A whole bunch of things that I said about the coronavirus, about the masks, the N95s, and how the other surgical masks don't work. And everything that I told you, you're not going to find anything that I told you that was not true. So let me tell you something, and let me give you my credentials to prove that I know something about this. My minor at Florida International University was astronomy. Not astrology. I don't study zodiacs, but I study astronomy, which is the planets, the stars, universe, whatever. And one thing that I do know is that you can utilize lasers to move an asteroid in 2 different ways. Okay? Now, I want to share this with you. Alright, so there's 2 methods that a laser can be utilized to move a comet out of its orbit or its trajectory. Okay? The first method is called radiation pressure. And radiation pressure is basically you take a bright light and you shine it against an object out in space, and the object is going to move. Matter of fact, if you're in a spacesuit and you have a bright flashlight that you can leave on forever, and you turn that flashlight on, you're going to start moving real slow at first. But over a long period of time, you're going to reach almost to the speed of light. If that flashlight could stay on, let's say for a couple thousand years, you would be moving faster and faster and faster and faster until you get close to the speed of light. But just by turning on a powerful flashlight. But if you have an object, if you was to put a piece of paper in front of you and you had a powerful flashlight out in the middle of the space and you shine that flashlight at that piece of paper, those photons that's coming from the flashlight, the particles of light, is going to actually start pushing that piece of paper. And it's called radiation pressure. And that's why when a comet is headed towards the sun, that tail of the comet, which is just particles that are being ejected from the comet as it heats up, getting closer to the sun, is always pointing away from the sun, because the solar radiation coming from the sun is actually pushing the particles from the comet to the rear, behind it, as the comet is moving. And the comet could be moving in a different direction. It might not be going straight towards the sun, but the tail of the comet will always be facing away from the sun because of the radiation pressure. So if you had a strong enough laser, you could actually move an asteroid. Now, you would need a lot of time to move that asteroid, like a little bit. But if you had a lot of time before that asteroid hit the Earth and you were shining a strong laser at it, that little bit of movement, because it's so heavy and it has so much momentum and so much speed, that little bit of movement might be enough if you had, let's say, 5 to 10 years to enable that asteroid to miss the Earth. So it is possible. And if you don't have a strong enough laser, then you need a whole bunch of lasers. And a lot of people don't realize, let me show you what a lot of people don't realize about a laser. Do you know if you get the average, those little pen lasers, the little green lasers that they be shining at planes and doing all kind of foolishness with, do you know if you shine it at the moon, that it actually reaches the moon? The only thing is that the light gets dispersed, so that even though it's like a little pen light, when you're clicking the button and it's coming out of your hand or out of the pen in your hand, when it gets to the moon, it's going to actually spread out to a distance about 6, 7, 8 miles. But it reaches the moon. And that's just a little pen laser. So if you had a powerful enough laser, you could hit an asteroid that's headed in this direction. And even better, if you had 60,000 lasers, if you had just 12,000, you could actually hit that asteroid. Now, when lasers hit objects, they tend to heat up. They start getting hotter. Now, this is the second way that you can move an asteroid. If you hit an asteroid with enough heat and it starts heating up, it's going to start ejecting particles, because asteroids are about negative 270 Kelvin, which is like absolute zero. It's freezing. But if you can hit it with a laser for a long enough period and you start heating it up, it starts ejecting particles. If you ever do a study, you'll notice people talk about comets that are headed towards the sun. As they get closer to the sun and they start heating up, they start breaking apart. because they're ejecting the solid ice is turning into gas on the outside and the inside, and the all the liquid particles are turning gaseous, and even some of the harder particles are turning gaseous. And when it turns gaseous, it starts ejecting, and it can break the comet apart. Some of y'all saw the movie Armageddon, and you remember when the comet started turning and facing the sun. All of a sudden, all these Geister-like gas expulsions started coming out of the comet. That's what happened when a comet starts heating up. And even with an asteroid, you get it also, when it starts heating up, it starts ejecting particles. And by ejecting particles, it can change the direction or the trajectory of that asteroid. So you can utilize lasers to heat up the rock, and it can eject particles that move it to the right or to the left, but move it, and then whatever it was going to hit, it could actually miss it if you have enough time to do it. You'd have to know, if the asteroid's coming tomorrow, you ain't gonna be able to move it. Then you'd have to just try to blow it up with a nuclear bomb or something like that. But if you have enough time with lasers, you can move it. And the problem with nuclear bomb is you blow the asteroid up, it breaks up into a whole bunch of radioactive pieces, and those pieces still hit the earth and come and land all over the place and still do damage, and now everything is radioactive because of all those little particles. So that's a problem with blowing something up. But if you have a laser and you can heat it up and just change the trajectory, then it might miss the earth completely. Is this what Elon Musk is planning to do? Is it what he's planning to do? Is this why the United States is allowing him to put so many satellites up into space? It's unheard of. 12,000 satellites? And what's so funny, when you start looking at all of the pieces of everything that's going on, it's some funny coincidences. Okay? Let me show you some of the coincidences. Elon Musk has said that he's going to sell a lot of the satellites to the Defense Department, to the military. Okay? He's going to send it to the military. The satellites are big. Even though each rocket that's sent up has 60 in it, each satellite weighs up to 1,000 pounds. 1,000 pounds is the size of some of these little cars. Okay? So that's a pretty big satellite. And if you don't think they can put a powerful enough laser on that, think about it. The military has already, you can Google this, the military has lasers that they're putting on pickup trucks, on Humvees, on personnel carriers. And these lasers are supposed to be able to knock out other vehicles and even low-flying aircraft from a long distance away. So if you have a 1,000-pound satellite with 5 lasers, it has a strong capacity. Now, if you have 12,000 of them, that's a lot of power. If you have 12,000 of these Starlink satellites, then you're going to have 5 lasers on each one. That's going to be about 60,000 lasers. So could it be possible that these lasers are not for communication, but they're going to be utilized that every time the satellite passes the Earth in its orbit, because it passes Earth a couple times before it gets that close path, we're going to be shooting lasers at it to heat up a section of it that's going to change the orbit and push it away from the Earth. Is that what Elon Musk really is doing? And if that's the case, does the United States government, who allowed SpaceX to put 12,000 satellites into space, do they know something that we don't know about this comet, or excuse me, about this asteroid? Do they know maybe that it is going to hit the Earth? And they're trying to prevent it, but they don't want society to know because they don't want us to be running around here crazy. It's the end of the world. Is it a possibility? Or is it just a coincidence that this man is going to put 12,000 satellites into orbit, and he tweets about Earth don't have any defense as of yet to protect us from asteroids? He tweeted this last year, and this year he's sending up all of these satellites. Is this what's really going on? All I know is God told me to go outside and look up. and it has something to do with what's coming next. And I don't think he was trying to show me that internet is coming next, because we already got internet. And I don't think he was going to try to show me that, well, internet is going to be cheaper now because they're putting up 12,000 satellites. I don't think that's what God was trying to show me. I think something's going on. Our government knows about it. Elon Musk knows about it with SpaceX. And they don't want the public to know. And we all need to be taking our eyes off the ground and looking towards the skies. And we need to be researching about this asteroid Apophis, because chances are it is coming. I also want you to take a look at this. Look at this. This is the Starlink satellites. This is the icon that they use for Starlink. Anything about this icon look funny to you? Some people could say that it's an X. And some people could say, well, it looks like something shooting off. But doesn't it look like something coming in and hitting the Earth? Doesn't it look like an asteroid impact? Is that a coincidence? Another coincidence is that Elon Musk is selling all of his homes. He says that he wants to be a person that owns no homes. He's selling all of them. Does he know something we don't know why he's trying to get rid of these houses? Getting rid of all these mansions that he has? Then think about the push that they're making to get to Mars. They're trying to build this what they call this, the Starship. It's a push to get this thing built. They're trying to hurry up and build this thing. Is the reason that they're trying to hurry up and build this thing is because they're worried that something is going to hit the Earth and we're going to be pushed back into the Stone Age? Are they worried that no one's going to survive, or the people that survive, no one's going to know who? It might be you, it might be me. So they're trying to build a starship to where they can leave the Earth, and then once the Earth is hit, they can come back and rebuild with certain choice people? Is it really about going to Mars, or is it just about getting off of the Earth? There's been a push by many countries to build bases on the moon. Is the bases that you're going to build on the moon to just get material, to get metals and gold, silver, platinum, and these different things that they want to mine on the moon? Or is it also to get off of the Earth, just in case the Earth get hit, you'll be safe and able to come back and rebuild? Is this really what's going on? And now for us as Christians, we have to know that there is a asteroid spoken of in the Bible, in Revelation, that is supposed to hit the Earth at the end of time. Right before Christ comes back, we're supposed to have an asteroid hit. Now let me clarify that. Okay? Right before the new kingdom is set up on the earth, there's going to be an asteroid hit. Is it this? Is this Apophis, the asteroid? In the Bible, it's called wormwood. But is wormwood and Apophis the same one? I want you to stay tuned to the next video, because in the next video, I'm going to point out a lot of different things. I'm going to point out to us as Christians why we don't have to worry, because this really is not going to affect us, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. I'm going to point out to those that are Christians that are compromising. The Bible talks about the 5 virgins, or the 10 virgins, the 5 that was wise and the 5 that was foolish. For Christians that are in line with those 5 foolish virgins and are going to be left, what you need to do if you're left behind, because if you're left behind, it's going to be your behind. But give yourself the best probability of making it out of what's coming, because there's certain places on the earth that you're going to need to go to. Because the Bible tells us specifically areas that is going to survive a lot of the things that are coming to the earth. It's in the Bible. A lot of people miss it. So I'm going to be talking about that in the next video. And if you're a sinner, I'm going to tell you where you need to get out of. Places you need to get out of and try to get to. So you have a chance of surviving. But one thing we have to know is a lot of stuff going on. And like I said earlier, God did not tell me to go outside and look up in the sky because they were building no internet. he wanted me to see those satellites. And something about those satellites has to do with what's coming next. Is it military weapon? Is it something to watch over the people, to control the people, to track us? Is it a asteroid defense mechanism that they're trying to save themselves from something that the Bible says is going to happen, that's already written and it's going to happen? Because if the Bible says it's going to happen, you can put 1 billion satellites up there, it ain't going to stop nothing. Because if God said write it, it's going to be. We're going to find out. Guys, stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll be talking more about this in the next video. Blessings. Love y'all. Don't get worried. Stay right with God and know you have nothing to worry about. We'll discuss that next video too. Much love. See you soon.